Hello, I'm Denise Phillips, professional chef and cookery writer from Northwood United Synagogue. Today we are focusing on the festival of Purim, a festival of entertainment, singing, dancing, fancy dress, and of course, good food. The festival is on the evening of Monday, the 6th of March, and Purim means lots in Hebrew and refers to the way Haman chose the 13th day of Adar as the date to massacre the Jews of Persia. Esther means hidden, and she was the heroine of the story. And just to look at my beautiful Hamantaschen, the filling is hidden. And also in the story of the Megillah, the name of Hashem is not mentioned, but gosh, there are so many miracles in the story. The Hamantaschen is shaped, if you look very carefully, as Haman's hats. It's three-cornered shaped pastry, and I'm going to show you how to make those. And the name is derived from two German words, mon meaning poppy seed and taschen meaning pockets, in a reference to the feeling of Haman's pockets were filled with bribe money, plus the word mon sounds very much like Haman. In Israel, Hamantaschen, called Oznei Haman, mean Haman's ears, refers to a midrash, a legend, which says that when Haman entered the king's treasury, he was bent over with shame and humiliation, bent over literally with clipped ears. So Hamantaschen are filled with both sweet and savoury fillings. Could be sweet, popular one is obviously poppy seed, but jam, chocolate, halva like mine, or savoury with spinach, cheese, or even smoked salmon. So I'm going to show you how to make my recipe, and that's a halva and chocolate Hamantaschen. A few tips for the perfect Hamantaschen. Don't roll it over too thickly, keep the pastry quite thin. Don't overfill it, because otherwise the filling will come out. And when you clip the centre together, make sure you spend a little bit of extra time, because otherwise the filling comes out. So just a quick look at the finished Hamantaschen, and I will show you how to make my recipe. Now my recipe uses something a little bit different, and this is tahini. So I'm going to show you step by step, and just to remind you, if you want the recipe, it is on my website jewishcookery.com. So let's start with all the ingredients using my food processor here. Right, we're going to put in 1 egg, and just by the way, I have halved the recipe from the one on the website. This is vegetable oil, chopped up little bits of chocolate. I'm going to give that a little bit of a whiz right now. This just chops up the chocolate a little bit. Plain flour. We're just going to keep back a little bit. And of course, my tahini. Look at this gorgeous, gorgeous stuff. There we go. Tahini. Vanilla essence gives it a nice flavour. Alright. Baking powder, just a tiny, tiny bit. Just makes them that little bit lighter. And some sugar. Alright, going to whisk this together. A little sprinkling of salt. Always a good tip when you make sweet things to add a little bit of salt, and whizzing that together. Going to bind this all together to make my pastry. It's coming together nicely. Can you see how we're just going to whiz that little bit more? All right. together, and I'm now going to bind this together and roll my pastry. So squidging this together. There we go. Beautiful pastry. And it's got a nice texture because it's got tahini in it, chocolate, and if you remember, also that little bit of vanilla essence as well. So perfectly bound together. There we go. There's our pastry. Let's move the food processor to one side. We're now going to roll this out. Now the tip here, rolling it out, is in between two layers of either baking parchment paper or cling film, and the reason is for that is so that you don't make your pastry too dry. So this is another piece of cling film, literally like sandwiching it together. Roll this out, pushing this down, and then I'm taking my cookie cutter. This is 7.5 centimeters in diameter. Of course, you can make them bigger or smaller. Okay, so here we have our perfectly rolled pastry. You can freeze the pastry if you want to. Personally, I'd rather keep the whole thing together. Then you need to take a tray lined with baking parchment paper. Take your cutter. Let's just squish that together. Taking our pastry template, like that. Right, so let's just move that to one side. Let's just demonstrate how to make the Hamantaschen. This is my filling. Now this is tahini, halva, and a little bit of water. Delicious stuff, absolutely delicious. Okay, again that little bit different. Putting about half a teaspoon into the center, like this. This is the fun. You squeeze one side together, really squishing the sides, that's one, and then into the center like this. Now already you can see a little bit of mixture has come out. Let's just remove that and really squish the corners together. Now the Americans, believe it or not, they leave a little opening on their Hamantaschen. The English team to hide the filling completely, so you can see to one side, bring it into the center, and really squeeze the sides together, removing any excess. There we go. Now that looks delicious. Now, they then go into the oven, 200 degrees centigrade, 400 degrees Fahrenheit, gas mark 6, for about 20 minutes. And when they're cooked, they come out looking like this. Now, I'm now going to do the topping. Now, the topping is more chocolate. Look at this gorgeous chocolate. And I'm just going to sprinkle a little bit of chocolate, sprinkling it on top, melted. This is melted dark chocolate. So the whole Hamantaschen is in fact Purim. And then I'm going to just, because while the chocolate is warm, I'm going to just crumble a little bit of Halva on the topping. And while the chocolate is still warm, the Halva will stick to it. So here we have my delicious creations of Halva and chocolate Hamantaschen. I hope you have a fabulous Hag Sameach. I will now pass you over to Rabbi Mendel, who will give you the spiritual message of Purim. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Denise. Those look like really tasty Hamantaschen, and I, for one, would definitely like to try them. And I think everybody knows the old Jewish adage that they tried to kill us, we won, let's eat. And you know, this applies to many festivals, but really it applies most of all to the festival of Purim. On Purim we have 4 mitzvot of the day. One is to read the Megillah, the story of telling the story of Purim. The second is to give charity to the poor, matanot evyonim. The third is to give mishloach manot, gifts of food to others. And the fourth is to have a Purim Suda, a festive meal to celebrate our salvation from the plot to annihilate us. And most of these mitzvot are actually related to food. The mitzvah to have the meal is obviously related to food, but also the mitzvah to give food to others and give charity so others can also have their own festive meal. Now some might ask, what is religious about having a slap-up meal, about all these things about food? How does that help us connect to God? And I think the answer is that Judaism is not just about fasting and being somber, it is really about celebrating. And in Purim, they tried to kill us physically, so we celebrate physically with our food and our salvation. We have a party, just like there's so many parties that we read about that took place in the Megillah. And we don't connect with it in a dry way, through thinking and praying, but rather through joy and being together to celebrate Jewish life and our ongoing survival against the odds. Some even make the link with Purim and Yom HaKippurim, the link obviously being in the name Purim, and Yom HaKippurim both have Purim in the middle. Now Yom HaKippurim is obviously a very somber day, the Day of Atonement, the day where we're very serious, whereas Purim is a day of festivity and joy. So how can they be connected? Well, if you look at the Hebrew, the ka means like. So you could actually say Yom HaKippurim, the Day of Atonement, is like the Day of Purim. Because on Yom Kippur we connect spiritually like angels, and we hope to try and connect as we can on Purim in a very natural and intuitive and human way with our partying and our festivity. So next time you're on Purim, and you're thinking about Purim, you can think about, this is a bit like Yom Kippur, because we're connecting in a similar way, but we're doing it in a physical way rather than a spiritual way. So this Purim, enjoy the Suda, enjoy the Hamantaschen, drink responsibly, have a very festive meal and share it with the poor, with the community and with others, and therefore we can really appreciate what Purim's all about and the joy of being Jewish. Purim Sameach.